Hello everyone, it's Glenda and welcome back to my channel Creative Grandma. I hope everyone is having a happy crochet day. Now this video is for a crochet tutorial for my new cabled headband. Now I'm one of those people that sometimes I don't like wearing a hat. Maybe I have a ponytail, or like my daughter, she whips her hair up on top of her head in a messy bun. And sometimes you just want something that you can throw over your ears and keep your ears nice and warm. So I decided to make myself a headband to match my sweater. Now this is made out of 4 medium worsted weight yarn, and you can make this headband in any of your favorite colors, in any of your favorite 4 medium weight yarns. Now this pattern consists of single crochets, double crochets, and a front post triple. I'm going to show you step by step how to make these cable stitches and how to put that beautiful look on your headband. Now I'll walk you step by step on how to do those front post stitches and making that cable. I go at a pace that even if you're a beginner, you're going to be able to make this headband. It's going to be fantastic if you're a person who does craft shows and with the cold winter weather, or maybe you like to donate items to shelters or the homeless, or where people might be cold and need hats and scarves. This is an excellent pattern because it works up so quickly and you can make several of these in a day. So I'm just going to show you the front. Here's the front, and when it stretches it almost creates a lacy pattern right here where the cables are, and then this is the side. So it looks good no matter how you turn your head. It's going to carry that cable design right around your headband. So let me tell you everything you're going to need to make your headband today. For our project today, I'm using the Lion brand Heartland yarn. This is a beautiful soft premium acrylic. It comes in a 5-ounce skein, 142 grams, 251 yards, 230 meters. It's 100% acrylic, very, very soft acrylic. It is a 4 medium weight yarn, and it is machine washable and dryable. The yarn is made in Turkey, and this is color Badlands, color number 148. Now this skein here is what was left over after making the headband, so I'm not sure if this is enough to actually make a second one. It looks like it might be, but I can't confirm that unless I would make a second one, but I think you might get 2 out of a skein of yarn. So I have 3 more colors here. This is a full skein, so that is the difference after you make the headband from a full skein to what's left over. So let's take a look at this color. I have 3 other colors to show you that I had in my stock. This is color number 122 Grand Canyon. And you can see all those beautiful colors. Look at that yarn. Isn't that pretty? So again, that is color 122 Grand Canyon, and I'll put a link to this yarn. You can click that link. It'll take you right to Lion brand, and you can review all the colors they have available. So this is the next color, and this is color Sequoia. This is color number 126. This is a darker brown, and you can see the tonal effect of this yarn. Very pretty with this Heartland yarn. And I have one more color to show you. This next color is another shade of brown. I must have been going to make something. That's why I chose these 3 different browns. This is Mammoth Cave. It's color number 125. Let me get it up to the camera. You can see that tonal effect of the yarn. And just that subtle coloration in the yarn just really makes the yarn look beautiful. So let me put all 4 of those colors together so you can see them. So for today's project, you're only going to need 1 skein of yarn. And again, these are 5-ounce skeins, so I'm going to say 2.5 to 3 ounces of a 4 medium weight yarn. And then you're also going to need a size H8 or 5mm crochet hook. So grab your yarn, grab your hook, and let's get our headband started. Now I am going to be using the same color that I showed you, and I'm using color 148, the Badlands. It's beautiful, almost like a cranberry burgundy color. So I have my yarn attached to my hook, and I just used a double knot. You can join your yarn to your hook in whichever way you prefer. So for this project today, we're going to chain 16. You're going to yarn over the hook, pull it through the loop on your hook, and this creates your first chain. The loop on your hook does not count as a chain. Yarn over, pull through, that's 2, 3, 4, 5. Continue until you have 16 chains, and I'll be back and we'll start row 1. I'm back. I have my 16 chains made, and now we're ready to begin row 1. Now my yarn is a darker color, so hopefully you'll be able to see the stitches okay. For row 1, we're going to work a simple single crochet row. We're going to skip the very first chain, and we're going to go into the second chain. Insert into the second chain from your hook, yarn over, pull through that chain. You have 2 loops. Yarn over and pull through 2 loops. You just made a single crochet. Single crochet into the next chain. Single crochet into the next chain. And with this yarn, it's so silky soft that sometimes you might have a little bit of trouble holding on to that beginning end until you get started. Single crochet into the next chain. Single crochet into the next chain. Continue and work 1 single crochet in each chain across, and I'll meet you at the end of row 1. I'm over at the end. This is what your work should look like, and you should have a total of 15 single crochet stitches. Now what I like is when you're first starting a project, if you leave a little bit longer length, then you can use this to help hold on to your project when you're crocheting. So now it's time to begin row 2, so let's go ahead and get started. For row 2, we're going to chain 2, 1, 2, and you're going to turn your work. This beginning chain 2 will count as the first double crochet. We're going to skip that beginning chain 2. You're going to skip that very first stitch because when you look at your work, your chain 2 counts as the first stitch. So we're going to begin into the second stitch working our stitches. You're going to yarn over, insert into the next stitch, which is the second stitch. You're going under both of those top 2 loops. You're going to yarn over, pull back through that stitch. You have 3 loops on your hook. Yarn over, pull through 2 loops only, yarn over and pull through 2 loops. You just made a double crochet. Double crochet into the next stitch. Again, go under both of those top 2 loops, work your double crochet. Double crochet into the next stitch. Double crochet into the next stitch. Continue and work 1 double crochet in each stitch across, and I'll meet you at the end of row 2. I'm over at the end of row 2. I have 1 stitch remaining, and if you're new to crocheting, I always recommend putting a stitch marker into the very last stitch and the very first stitch of each row so you know where your ending stitches and your beginning stitches are. We're going to work a double crochet into that very last stitch. Row 2 is finished. You're going to have a total of 15 double crochet, and that is counting your beginning chain 2. So row 2 is finished. So let's begin row 3. For row 3, you're going to chain 1 and you're going to turn your work. Row 3 is a very simple single crochet row. You're going to skip your beginning chain 1. You're going to insert right into the top 2 loops of that very first stitch. Insert your hook under the top 2 loops, work a single crochet. Single crochet into the next stitch. single crochet into the next stitch, single crochet into the next stitch, continue and work 1 single crochet in each stitch across, and I'll meet you at the end of row 3. I'm over at the end of row 3. I still have my turning chain, and this is where a lot of new crocheters mess up, is if you're not using stitch markers, you may think that you worked in the last stitch and you don't count the turning chain. You have to remember that this turning chain is a stitch. So that is why it's important to have a stitch marker into the top of that turning chain too. So we're going to finish the row by working 1 single crochet right into the top of that turning chain 2. Row 3 is finished, and you should have a total of 15 single crochet stitches. Now for the rest of this pattern, you're going to keep the same stitch count of 15 stitches. So now it's time to begin row 4. Row 4, you're going to learn how to make those front post triples and form those cable stitches. So let's go ahead and begin row 4. This is a very easy technique. I'm going to walk you through it step by step. So let's go ahead and begin. We're going to chain 2, and you're going to turn your work. The beginning chain 2 counts as the first double crochet stitch. So again, when you look at your work, this is your first stitch, and this chain 2 is that first stitch of the next row. We're going to work 1 double crochet in each of the next 4 stitches. Yarn over, insert into the very next stitch. You're skipping the first stitch, going into the next stitch. Work a double crochet. And if you're using stitch markers, go ahead and put it right into the top of that turning chain that you just made. So that was 1 double crochet of 4. We need to do that 3 more times. Double crochet into the next stitch. Double crochet into the next stitch. And double crochet into the next stitch. So when you look at your work, you're going to have your beginning chain 2 and then 4 double crochet for a total of 5 stitches. Now we're going to start our cables. We're going to work a front post triple, and we're going down 2 rows below into this double crochet row. So let's begin. You're going to yarn over twice, bring your hook to the front of the work. You're going to put your hook right down on the right side, and if you're left-handed, it might be the opposite. Insert from front to back and then back to front. You're just taking your hook underneath the post of that stitch, and now we're just going to work a regular triple crochet. Yarn over, pull it back through underneath that stitch. You have 4 loops on your hook. Yarn over, pull through 2 loops only. Yarn over, pull through 2 loops. Yarn over and pull through 2 loops. You just made your front post triple 2 rows below. So now we're going to form our braid textured stitch, where we're going to skip this next stitch, and we're going to work a front post triple around the next 2 double crochet 2 rows below. So let's begin. You're going to yarn over twice. You're going to drop down 2 rows, skip that next double crochet, insert from front to back, back to front around the next double crochet, and then just work your triple crochet. Yarn over, bring it back underneath and around that stitch. You have 4 loops. Yarn over, pull through 2 loops only. Yarn over, pull through 2 loops. Yarn over and pull through 2 loops. You just made your front post triple. We're going to do that again into the next stitch 2 rows below. Yarn over twice, drop down 2 rows, 1, 2 to that very next double crochet stitch. Insert from front to back, back to front underneath that post of that stitch. Yarn over, pull back underneath and around that stitch. You have 4 loops on your hook. Yarn over, pull through 2 loops. yarn over, pull through 2 loops, yarn over, and pull through 2 loops. So now we're going to make a crossover front post triple, and all we're doing is bringing our hook to the front of the work, and we're going to bring that stitch across these 2 that we just made. So when you look at your work, you're going to have this skip stitch right here that we didn't work in yet. So we're just coming back and angling that stitch and going into this skip stitch. So the process of making the front post triple is the same. It's just where you're putting your stitch. You're coming back to the right side of your work into this skip stitch. And if you're left-handed, it might be the opposite. So let's begin. You're going to yarn over twice, bring your hook to the front of the work, and you're going to come back to the 3rd stitch. Count back 1, 2, 3. You're going to find that skip stitch 2 rows below, insert from front to back, back to front around the post of that stitch, and then work your triple crochet. Yarn over the hook, bring it back underneath and around the post of that stitch, and you want to pull up a little bit. You're going to yarn over, pull through 2 loops, yarn over, pull through 2 loops, yarn over, and pull through 2 loops. And it just adds that texture across those 2 stitches to form that braided look of the cable. Now this part of the pattern, you have to remember that this stitch went clear over here, but when you do your next stitch, you're returning back to the next stitch on the top current row. So we're going to work 1 more front post triple into the next corresponding stitch 2 rows below. So when it says next corresponding stitch 2 rows below, you're going to the next stitch, and this is the corresponding stitch underneath that stitch 2 rows below. So if you ever see that in the instructions, that's what that means. Yarn over twice, go to the next stitch on the top current row, drop down 2 rows below, 1, 2, insert from front to back, back to front around the post of that stitch, yarn over, pull underneath and around that stitch. You have 4 loops, yarn over, pull through 2 loops, yarn over, pull through 2 loops, yarn over, and pull through 2 loops. So this is the center of your headband. This is what forms that texture. So now we're going to work 1 double crochet in each of the next 5 single crochet stitches on the top current row. Now this is also very important because if you're not used to working these stitches, because you're going down 2 rows below, this stitch may cover up that very next stitch. So if you're not sure where to put your stitch placement, then look, I worked in this stitch 2 rows below, so then look for the next stitch. This is the next stitch that you didn't work on 2 rows below. So if you follow that stitch up, then you're going to find the correct stitch on the top current row. You do not want this stitch to hide that stitch and go in the wrong stitch. You do not want this stitch to be pulled back and go into the one that's skipped behind it. So that is the best way that you don't mess up the pattern when you're not used to working these kind of patterns. So again, we worked in this stitch 2 rows below. You're just going to go to the next stitch, follow it up, and that's the next stitch you're going to work in. So double crochet into the next stitch on the top current row. And we're going to finish the row by working 1 double crochet in each remaining stitch across. And that should be a total of 5 double crochet on the top current row after you did your last front post triple. So when you get to the end, here's the last stitch, and if you're using stitch markers, you should have a stitch marker into the top of that last stitch. Work your double crochet. So again, when you look at your pattern, you're going to have the beginning of the row start with 5 double crochet on the top current row, and that beginning chain 2 counts as 1. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then you're going to have a total of 5 front post triple, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And that 4th front post triple is crossed, so it's 5 stitches, 5 front post triples, and then 5 double crochet stitches. So that's how you can tell if your pattern's correct. Always start the row with 5 double crochet, work your 5 front post triple in the center forming this pattern, and then you're ending with 5 double crochet stitches. So row 4 is finished, and now we're ready to begin row 5. Row 5, we're going to begin with a chain 1, and you're going to turn your work. You're going to skip the beginning chain 1, insert into the very first stitch, work a single crochet. Single crochet into the next stitch. Again, always work under the top 2 loops unless I tell you otherwise. Single crochet into the next stitch. Single crochet into the next stitch. Single crochet into the next stitch. Continue and work 1 single crochet in each stitch across, and I'll meet you at the end of row 5. I'm over at the end of row 5. We worked 1 single crochet in each stitch across, and I always like to finish the row with you. So when you get to the end of the row, you're still going to have your ending chain 2. So if you're using stitch markers, there should be a stitch marker right into the top of this ending chain 2. So go ahead and insert your hook right into the top of the ending chain 2 and work a single crochet. Again, you're going to have a stitch count of 15 stitches, and this is the wrong side of your work. So row 5 is finished, and we have 1 more row to go, row 6. Now this is a 2-row repeat, so you're going to repeat row 5 and 6 for the pattern. So let's go ahead and begin row 6. We're going to begin with a chain 2, 1, 2, and you're going to turn your work. Our beginning chain 2 counts as the first stitch, so we're going to work our next stitch into the very next stitch, which is the second stitch. Skip the first stitch, yarn over, insert into that second stitch, work a double crochet. Double crochet into the next stitch, double crochet into the next stitch, double crochet into the next stitch. So when you look at your work, you're going to have your beginning chain 2. Make sure you put your stitch marker into the top of that beginning chain 2, and then you worked 1 double crochet in each of the next 4 stitches. So now we're going to keep forming our cables and braid. So we're going to begin by working a front post triple into the next front post triple 2 rows below. You're going to skip the single crochet row, and you're going to come down here and insert underneath the stitch. Let me see if I can get that so you can see it. You're going right underneath the post of the stitch, and then you're going to work your front post triple. So let's go ahead and get started. You're going to yarn over twice. You're going to go to the next stitch, and you're going to drop down 2 rows, 1, 2, insert from front to back, back to front around that front post triple, yarn over, pull underneath and around that stitch. You have 4 loops, yarn over, pull through 2 loops, yarn over, pull through 2 loops, yarn over, and pull through 2 loops. And this is just making your straight cable come all the way up. Now we're going to make our braid stitch where we have 3 front post triple. This one's underneath, so you really have to watch for it. But you have a total of 3 stitches in the middle. 1, 2, 3. We're going to skip this first stitch of those 3, and we're going to work our next stitch right into the center front post double crochet. Yarn over twice. You're going to skip the next stitch on the top current row, go to the next stitch, drop down 2 rows, 1, 2, insert from front to back, back to front. You may have to stick your finger in there. and come back out through the front, and it's the center stitch of those 3. Work your triple crochet. Yarn over, pull it back through underneath and around that stitch. You have 4 loops. Yarn over, pull through 2 loops. Yarn over, pull through 2 loops. Yarn over and pull through 2 loops. Now we're going to work a front post triple around this next front post triple, which is slanted. My yarn is really dark. I wish I would have used the lighter color, but this is the next stitch, the one that goes across the work in angles. Yarn over twice, go to your very next stitch on the top current row, drop down 2 rows, 1, 2, insert from front to back, back to front around the post of that front post triple, yarn over, pull back through and underneath and around that post. You have 4 loops, and you might want to pull up a little bit. Yarn over, pull through 2 loops, yarn over, pull through 2 loops, yarn over and pull through 2 loops. So now we need to make our crossover stitch. So we're going to work a front post triple, but you're going to come back and you're going to count over 3 stitches. You can count easier by going down below into the second row. You're going to skip the current stitch, that's 1. The next stitch to the right is 2, and you're going to go into this 3rd stitch 2 rows below. So let's go ahead and finish our braid. You're going to yarn over twice, bring your hook to the front of your work and bring it all the way over to the right, and you're going to count over 3 stitches, 1, 2, and 3. Drop down 2 rows, 1, 2, to that front post triple that you skipped. Insert from front to back, back to front around that stitch. Yarn over, pull underneath and around that stitch, and pull up a little bit on that and make that a little bit bigger loop. Yarn over, pull through 2 loops, yarn over, pull through 2 loops, yarn over and pull through 2 loops. You just made your crossover stitch, and that is how you form your braid. Now we're going to work a front post triple around this single straight triple right here, the very next stitch, 2 rows below. Yarn over twice, go to the very next stitch on the top current row, drop down 2 rows, 1, 2, insert from front to back, back to front around the post of that stitch, yarn over, pull back underneath and around the post of that stitch. You have 4 loops. Yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over and pull through 2. Your center braid and cables are finished. So now you're going to end the row with 1 double crochet in each of the last 5 stitches. So again, make sure that this front post triple is not covering up that stitch you need in. Go down 2 rows. This is the last stitch you worked in. You're going to the next stitch, follow it up to the top of your work, and this gives you the correct stitch. You're going to yarn over, insert into that stitch on the top current row, work a double crochet. Double crochet in each remaining stitch across your row. And when you get to the very last stitch, you should have a stitch marker in the stitch if you're using stitch markers. Work a double crochet into that last stitch. So when you look at your work, again, you're always going to have 5 stitches. You're going to have your beginning chain 2, which counts as the first double crochet, and then 4 more double crochet for a total of 5. Then you're going to have 5 front post triples, and this center one's really hard to see. You're going to have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 front post triple in a row forming this pattern, and then you're going to end with 5 double crochet, 1 double crochet in each of those last 5 stitches. So that is the end of row 6. So to continue working on your headband, you want to repeat rows 5 and 6, 23 more times. Now you can adjust this headband size if you need to make it smaller. Then you just do the pattern and end on row 6 when you get to the length that fits snugly around your head. If you need it larger, then you just keep repeating row 5 and 6, ending on row 6 until you get it to the length you want to fit around your head. It's very easy to adjust the size of this headband. So go ahead and continue and work rows 5 and 6 a total of 23 more times, and I'll meet you at the end of row 52. I'm over at the end of row 52. This is what my headband looks like so far. Isn't that a pretty design? And it would look good in any color that you choose. But I just want to tell you at this point, this is where you would probably just hold the two ends together in a circle and just see if it fits your head. Now remember, because we're working the rows this way, this is really going to stretch. So you want to make sure that it's snug but not too tight, but you don't want it too loose. So before you actually join the two ends together, just double check your headband at this point. Now I'm going to measure, this measures 4 inches wide and this measures 18.5 inches long. Now when I measured around my head was about 21.5 inches. And this is 18.5 inches. And I didn't want to make it any bigger because I wanted that nice tight fit around my head. It's not real tight. It's just comfortable to where it's not going to move around and fall down on my neck. So again, my head was 21.5 inches and this is 18.5 inches. So that's about a 3-inch difference from the size of my head. So that might be a guideline for you if you measure your head, drop down like 3 inches. Now I'm going to really stretch this and show you how much it really stretches, because it can be deceiving when you're looking at it thinking that's not going to fit around my head. And because again we're working the rows from the bottom up, then this is really going to stretch. It's going to fit comfortably around your head. So again, at this point, if it's too large for your head, maybe you're making this for a child, then you're just going to rip out 2 rows at a time until you're ending with that double crochet row. You do not want to end on a single crochet row because we have a little bit of a gap here when we sew it together. If you end with a single crochet row, then you're going to have a wide gap here between those cable stitches. So we don't want that. So again, at this point, either rip that out 2 rows at a time or add 2 rows at a time to custom fit this to your head. So now what we want to do to finish our headband, very simple to do, you want your headband with the right side facing. You want it so this cable, the texture part, is facing you on top. This is the back. It's going to be flat that goes against your head. So make sure the textured part is facing you on top. And you're just going to take row 1, the bottom of your headband, and you're just going to fold it right up to the top and meet the end of row 52 or whichever row you end on. And then you're going to have the wrong side on top and you're going to have those right sides together. So let me zoom up just a little bit since we have this folded in half. Then we're going to go back up. You do not fasten off at the end of row 52 or whichever row you're ending off on. You're going to insert your hook back into that loop where you ended the row. You have row 1 folded up, meeting the last row, and you're going to turn your work. So now what we're going to do is we're just going to match our stitches. You can see here's a stitch, and you're just going to match those stitches, and we're working through both thicknesses. And we're going to slip stitch across and join our headband together. So now you just want to tighten up your loop, and then you're just going to find the first stitch on the bottom. So you might have to take your fingers because that might roll just a tiny bit where you skip that first chain. Insert into that first stitch and you're going to slip stitch through the first stitch on the back and through the first stitch on the front. Then you're going to go to the very next stitch, insert under both of those top 2 loops, and then match it up to the matching stitch on the foundation chain. And then you're going to slip stitch through both thicknesses. And then you're just going to repeat that across until you join your headband together. Insert into the next stitch and again go under both of those top 2 loops and then match it up to the next chain on the foundation chain and slip stitch. Insert under the top 2 loops of the next stitch, match it to the chain space on the bottom of the foundation chain on the piece in the back and slip stitch together. Continue in that manner and slip stitch through each stitch across, matching to the stitch in the back until you join your headband together, and I'll meet you at the end after I join my headband together. I'm over at the end of the row. I just slip stitch through both thicknesses and join my headband together. So now I'm going to fasten off, and I like to leave a little bit longer length because when you're using a yarn needle, if it's too short, you don't have enough to maneuver back and forth and really weave in your ends. Now when I fasten off, I chain 2, I lift my hook up, pull the yarn out, grab the yarn, pinch, pull down, and it creates a secure knot. So now I'm just going to get my yarn needle. I'm going to weave in and out through these stitches and back again, weave in my ends. So when you look on the back of your headband, this is why I'm telling you, you need to end on a double crochet row where you're doing those front post stitches. Because the way the pattern started, where you had to do that extra row to do your first front post stitch, it left a gap. And if you end on a single crochet row, it's going to have even a bigger gap here. It'll be wider, and you don't want that. So that is what the back looks like. And then this is what your headband is going to look like in the front when you have it on your head. It just creates a nice textured look, gives a little bit of dimension, gives a little bit of style to your headband. So our headband is finished. This is what it looks like. You can see that beautiful cable running across your headband. I hope you enjoyed today's crochet tutorial, crocheting along with me. And it's always fun making those really quick and easy patterns that you can really whip out several in a day. So again, I just want to thank everybody for stopping by today. And until next time, happy crocheting, everyone.